All right, let's talk about Carl Jung. And I mean really talk about him. Today we're going to push past all the pop psychology memes and really deconstruct one of the most profound and frankly most misunderstood ideas of the 20th century, the collective unconscious. Let's dive in.
And this quote right here, this is pretty much the key to everything. It sets the stage perfectly. Jung wasn't just looking at our personal lives, our childhoods, our day-to-day worries. He saw the human mind, the psyche, as this incredibly ancient thing with roots that go way, way back, deep into our evolutionary past.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to clear the air and get past some common confusion. Then we'll look at how Jung structured the psyche. After that, we'll tackle the biggest misconception of all, what archetypes actually are. We'll look at the evidence for all this and then bring it home with the biggest question. Why should you care about any of this today?
So, first things first, Jung knew his ideas were, well, a bit out there for some people. He was totally aware that they were often met with confusion, prejudice, and misunderstanding. And while things like archetypes have become super popular, the real meaning often gets lost in translation. Our job here is to get back to what he actually meant. Now, this is absolutely crucial to understand before we go any further. Jung didn't see himself as a philosopher just spinning theories. He saw himself as a scientist, an empirical researcher. His method was what's called phenomenological. That just means he wanted to observe the psyche as it is, to describe what he saw, without letting his own preconceived notions like materialism or pure rationalism get in the way. You could almost call him an empiricist of the soul.
Okay, so this is where Jung really makes a radical break from everyone else at the time, and most famously from his mentor, Sigmund Freud. He argued that the unconscious isn't just one big soup of repressed stuff. No, he said it's actually split into two very distinct but connected layers.
And this slide lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got the personal unconscious. Think of this like your own personal hard drive. It's got all the stuff you've forgotten, the things you've repressed, experiences you never really paid attention to. It's uniquely yours. But then, on the right, that's the revolutionary part, the collective unconscious. This has nothing to do with your personal life. Jung saw it as an inherited foundation, a kind of psychic blueprint that all humans share, something that's totally independent of time and race. It's our shared psychological heritage as a species.
And this brings us to the actual contents of the collective unconscious. And, you guessed it, the source of the biggest confusion of all, the archetypes. But to really get what they are, we have to first be very clear about what they are not.
It's a simple question, right? But the answer you usually hear is almost always wrong. Pop culture loves to talk about them as if they're these inherited characters or images. The wise old man, the great mother, the hero. But that is precisely the misunderstanding Jung spent decades trying to correct.
I mean, listen to Jung himself here. You can almost hear the frustration in his voice. He's saying, look, my critics keep claiming I think an archetype is an inherited idea. But that's not it at all. So if that's what they're not, let's finally get to what they are.
This right here is the whole ballgame. An archetype isn't a thing you inherit. It's a way of functioning that you inherit. It's a pre-programmed pattern of behavior. It's the tendency to form certain kinds of images or to react in certain ways, but it's not the image itself. And if that still feels a little abstract, Jung gave these amazing biological analogies to make it crystal clear. Think about it. A bird isn't born with a blueprint of a nest in its head. It's born with the innate pattern of behavior for building that nest. Eels don't get a GPS for the Bermudas, they have an instinctual drive that guides them. Archetypes are basically the human, psychological version of these deep biological instincts.
To put it as simply as possible, archetypes are what instincts look like from the inside. They are the psychic shape of the most basic, fundamental, and powerful force in all of life.
Okay, so if this theory holds water, if these patterns are really baked into our psychic DNA, you'd expect to see proof of them, right? Like showing up all over the place across totally different cultures and throughout all of history. Well, according to Jung, that's exactly what we find.
Let's just take one powerful example, the mandala, the magic circle. What Jung found, pretty amazingly, is that these symbols of order and wholeness would just appear spontaneously. They'd show up in his patients' dreams or in their artwork, and almost always when that person was going through a period of intense personal chaos or confusion.
And the really incredible thing is, this isn't just one person's thing or one culture's thing. The same fundamental circular pattern shows up everywhere. You see it in Tibetan rituals, in Navajo healing ceremonies, in the doodles of modern children who have never been taught about them. You find them in prehistoric rock carvings in Africa, in the visions of a 12th century mystic, and in the philosophical diagrams of a 17th century thinker. The fact they all came up with this independently, well, that points to a common collective source. So you might be thinking, okay, that's some interesting history and anthropology, but what's the point? Well, for Jung, this was anything but an academic hobby. He saw it as a powerful, practical tool for healing, for connecting a single person's suffering to the grand, universal story of being human. Jung tells this fantastic story about a patient of his, a guy who described himself as a hard-boiled scientific rationalist. This man was on the edge of a breakdown, completely tormented by these bizarre dreams and visions he just could not explain. So one day, he's telling Jung about a particularly vivid dream, and in the middle of it, Jung just gets up, walks over to his bookshelf, pulls down a 400-year-old book, and shows the man a woodcut print that was almost a literal picture of the dream he just described.
Can you just imagine the impact of that moment? The wave of relief that must have washed over this man. He wasn't going crazy. This deeply personal, terrifying thing he thought was his own private hell, it wasn't a unique sickness at all. It was a known, documented, deeply human experience that others had gone through centuries before him.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Understanding this stuff, understanding the collective unconscious, it can be profoundly therapeutic. It's a powerful reminder that you are not alone in your deepest, strangest, most difficult struggles. It reconnects you to the entire human family. It shows you that your personal story is just a variation on these timeless, universal themes. It literally opens the door to life and humanity again. So this is the thought I really want to leave you with. Jung was convinced that when our modern, rational, conscious lives get too far away from our deep, instinctual foundations, those instincts will find a way to protest. So the question is, what forms might that protest be taking in our lives and in our world today? And what incredible wisdom might we find if we just learned how to listen?